What is up? This is your LA in a minute, and every day in Los Angeles, nearly 3 million vehicles traverse the 650 miles of freeways that make up this complex transportation network. This is a true marvel of engineering, but even more so when you consider that our freeways are based on indigenous travel routes and footpaths. Now this, I had to look into. Let's get into it. So around the time of the Spanish Portola expedition in the 1760s, there were approximately 10,000 Gabrielino Tongva native people in what is now the Los Angeles basin. This is an approximation of where the villages were and where the footpaths between the villages were developed originally. This is a more detailed map, and it kind of shows how the native villages sort of developed around the same places the centers of Los Angeles developed today. And you could see that the tracings of the footpaths sort of go around the natural contours of the earth, the LA River, the tributaries, the channels, the mountains, and those developed and laid the groundwork for today's freeways. One reason the footpaths developed was food scarcity. In the different microclimates of what would become Los Angeles, there was different food available, so the footpaths facilitated the exchange of that different food. Another reason is that intermarriage between the tribelets was encouraged to keep relationships between those villages healthy. In short, greater trade, greater resources, footpaths developed. It's uncanny. Almost every time that they expand a freeway or develop a new freeway, there are archaeological findings that prove that the native people were utilizing these footpaths before we use them as freeways. These are just some of the remnants that are discovered on a consistent basis that prove that these routes were critical to trade, to harvest, to the rituals of the native people. Here's an example. In 1769, Spanish friar Junipero Serra planted a cross and founded the Mission San Diego near the Kumeyaay village of Nipawai. Over the next 50 plus years, Spanish friars would establish 20 more missions and forts and call the road connecting them the El Camino Real. But for thousands of years prior to the Spanish conquest, California had been crisscrossed in every direction by hundreds of Native American pathways and trading routes. And get this, when Portola himself wanted to explore the inland of what would become Los Angeles, and he ran into the high, steep bluffs of the Palisades, he was shown an internal route by the native folk that we know today as the Sepulveda Pass. Similar stories throughout history mapped against the Native American trade routes prove that these were really the precursor to today's freeways. So next time you're driving along our freeways or even stuck in traffic, think of the indigenous people, because they created these footpaths and trade routes that are the lifeblood of Los Angeles transportation to this day. All right, LA, it's been a minute. So the Tongva Gabrielino people had dozens of little tribelets or villages in what would become the greater Los Angeles area. These footpaths developed naturally because the tribelets needed to communicate or have exchange between their villages.